Hi, so we're back at the data science workbench here, and we're going to launch another Jupyter Notebook. In this tutorial, we're going over Python, and we're talking about lists. So I just went up to the search bar here, and I pasted in the URL of our Python notebook. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and the workbench will actually it will import the notebook from GitHub. We're going to go ahead and click Python 3 as the interpreter and click OK. All right, so lists are just what you might think. It's a list. So it's when we basically it's a way that we can have collections of things. A list can hold a lot of different stuff. You can have lists of objects, lists of dictionaries. You can have lists of lists of integers, lists of floats, lists of strings. So if you think about, if you've ever used a spreadsheet program, you can think of a list as one column or one row. Okay, so it's a one-dimensional thing. Of course, then you can have lists of lists, which makes it 2 dimensions, or lists of lists, which makes it 3 dimensions. But your plain old list is just 1 dimension. So here's an example of how to build a list. Okay, so first of all, when we declare a list, we use the brackets, right? So my list equals, and then we have the empty brackets. So my list is now, the type of it is now a list. Then we can go ahead and we can add things to the list, right? So we append 1, we append 2, we append 3, and then we can go ahead and print the list, okay? So notice that when we print out here, the first thing we're going to print is we say my list, right? And then in the square brackets, we say it's in position 0. Okay, so now we remember we added a 1 first, so 1 is in position 0. We added 2, right? So 2 is in position 1, 3 is in position 2. So notice that it's a 0-based index, right, on my list, all right? Also, if we wanted to, we can do a for loop on a list. Okay, this is a really useful way to loop through things. Okay, notice that we say for x in my list, print x. Okay, so that means that basically we're going to loop through my list. You know, this in the first loop, you know, my list 0 is x, right? In the second loop, okay, the second time this loops, my list 1 is x. In the third time it loops, my list 2 is x. Okay, then finally we run out, right? So if you say for x in my list, we're just saying for each of the items in my list, you know, run this particular code. In this case, it's just print x. So let's go ahead and run it. We're going to do Shift Enter. Okay, so notice that if we just ran this up here, if we just ran this part, Shift Enter again, we just get 1, 2, 3. So that's our first one. 1, 2, 3, right? Then we go ahead and we loop through it again. Okay, so that's our second 1, 2, 3, right? So we have our 1, 2, 3 that we just saw, and then the loop actually lets us print it out again, right? So 1, 2, 3, right? So it loops, you know, it printed each member of the list. Okay, so accessing an index which does not exist generates an exception. So notice that we have only 0, 1, and 2 as the indexes in my list. If I say, hey, go get me index 10 from my list, then Python's going to complain. It's going to say, hey, that list index is out of range. Okay, that's what you see, list index out of range, very common error. Okay, so now we have exercise 2 here. In this exercise, you need to add numbers and strings to the correct lists using the append list method. You must add the numbers 1, 2, and 3 to the numbers list and the words hello and world to the strings variable. You also have to fill in the variable second name with the second name in the names list using brackets operator. Note that the index is 0 based, so if you want to access the second item in the list, its index will be 1. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. You are going to try to complete this exercise 2, and I'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video, right? And now you've completed exercise 2, and we're ready to kind of go through it together. So first of all, we declared our 2 lists, numbers and strings. Okay, then we declared a third list that is names for John, Erica, and Jessica. Okay, second name, write your code here. So what are we doing with our second name here? Okay, In this exercise, you will need to add numbers and strings to the correct list with the append method. You must add the numbers 1, 2, and 3 to the numbers list. Okay. So remember, we're going to go back up. And remember, we had this append right here. Okay, so we're going to use the same code. So I'm just going to copy it, right? Okay, and we go numbers. We're going to just add a number to the line here. We're going to do append. So there we go. So we append the number 1. We append the number, look at that, I just copied and pasted there. Append the number 2, copy, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And we're going to append the number 3. Okay, so that takes care of the first thing we needed to do. And then words hello and world to the strings list. Okay, so now we have the strings list. Now we know that we're going to use append, right? We know that we're going to use strings. Okay, we're going to know that we're going to use append, but we aren't going to use a number 3 this time, right? Okay, and you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I do a lot of copying and pasting. Okay, that's so that I don't get any errors where I mistype things. So there we go. Okay, so strings, I'm going to append hello, and then I'm going to append. Whoops. If you get something like this, if you double click on any of these, they look kind of weird. You just hit Shift Enter, they'll go back to the way they were. So we're going to go ahead and do world. It's probably just quicker to type it. Okay, string append world. Okay, next thing, you also have to fill the variable second name with the second name in the names list. Okay, so now we have second name, and we want to access the second name in the names list. Okay, so that would be Eric, right? That's the second name. Okay, but when I go access that, I have to remember, oh wait, so I use the square brackets, right? Oh wait, Eric is the second one. That means it's 0. John is 0 index. Eric is 1 index, right? Okay, so I think I have it here. Let's go ahead and run it. Shift Enter. Oop, look at that. The name number is not defined. That's a common mistake, right? So I didn't look at very carefully at this name. So numbers and number are not the same. I try to add things to a non-existent list, so I correct it. Shift Enter again. Okay, and there we have it. 1, 2, 3, hello world. And the second name on the list is Eric. Okay, success. Go ahead, if you're turning this in, we're going to go File, Print Preview. Control P to print. And in my case, we're going to print, we want to make a PDF, so we're going to print the file. And we're going to, select where we want to save this PDF. And once we're done, we click Select and Print. I'm going to click Cancel. Okay, if you're on Windows or some other operating system, you're going to go ahead and print this off as a PDF or however you were told to turn it in. Okay, good luck.